Good afternoon and welcome back to the expansion of consciousness. I'm your host, Jason Medlock, and we're going to be having a wonderful guest, Birgitta Visser, will be on the show with us this evening. We talk about expanding our consciousness. We talk about understanding how to use different modalities to improve our everyday life, to um, create performance in any area we like, but we also understand that a part of our consciousness is receiving downloads and receiving messages. Yeah, that's right. I mean, as a medium, as a channeler, you can receive messages from the collective. And I like to call it the collective because we're all one. And Brigitta, how she has those type skills, receiving messages from ascended masters, from archangels, um, from light beings that are only trying to help us develop, only trying to move this earth in the right direction. And that's the direction of ascension, moving from 3D to 5D, increasing the vibration of the entire planet. And I am so happy to have Brigitta here with us today. And just a little bit about her. Brigitte is a soul empowerment coach and a light configurator, delivering messages from many light beings to aid our community into the aid of humanity. Brigitte is a pro at surfing the cosmic dimensional wave across multiverse, delivering the many messages she receives from the collective of beings, of the light beings I just spoke of, ascended masters, archangels, and galactics, in the hope of that people will awaken to know and to feel what life is really all about. She has a profound knowledge of ancient wisdom that has, over the years, bubbled from deep within and has emerged as an inspirational channel, having been submerged in her own traumatic experiences and having chosen to overcome those. What an outstanding guest that we have for you tonight. Brigitta is a very experienced channel and will bring a lot of information to the forefront, just the kind of guests we like on expansion of consciousness. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on Brigitta. Hey
Hi,
there, how you
Jason.
doing? Hey,
Good.
good. I am happy to have you here, and I know, you are coaching, you are receiving information, you are an inspiring and inspirational channel that only wants to help re-empower people and help people get where they need to go and understand how to let go of the programming and reprogram with new thoughts. I'm just happy you're here. Can you tell us what moved you in this direction and got you started on this path?
Life.
Doesn't it do us all that way, Brigitte? I love that response.
Yeah, life got me where I am today. I think it's my experiences. When I started out with life, I always thought, well, this is not what I signed up for, but this is exactly what I signed up for. I always
Wow.
say I must have been off my head up there when I signed my soul contract and said, yes, I'll do this. I'll do this. I want to go through this. I want to go through this. I ticked all the boxes. And they were like, okay, then. And off I went. But when we're born, we forget. We get whacked on the head and we come in literally cold turkey, from the warmth of the womb and out into the cold world. It's like an Arctic blast, and boom, it's like we forget. We're amnesiaed out. And I went through a lot of trauma in my life. And looking back on all the trauma from, my childhood abuse by a friend of the family, to being bullied in high school, to starving myself, to being, I was very scared of men, especially in high school, because also I was bullied and I was very skinny. And in the modeling industry, I was assaulted and I rolled into toxic relationships. I had my stint with drugs after my stepdad died because people always wanted to see me happy. So that was a facade that I put up. And it was okay to talk about the death of my stepdad for like 2 minutes. And then it was like, okay, you know what? It's like we had enough. Let's talk about something else. And I just tumbled down the rabbit hole. But everything, even the dysfunctional relationships I had, everything in my life brought me to the point of who I am now, and I am still becoming, because we're always a work in progress. We never stop learning because we are consciousness. And I love your shirt because it says create consciousness.
And you picked the right person to give the opportunity to interview you. You know, I want to dig off into it. I know, I guess let's just, when did you notice you had the ability? And then I have some really power pack questions for you. So how did you notice, you know what, I have an increased ability to, maybe I'm clairaudient here. What's going on here?
Yeah, it took me a long time to figure this out because I studied many healing modalities, but I wasn't always as visual. I mean, as a kid, I know I had a guide with me, and it was like I was on this cord and I could see her, and she was like a high school teacher of sorts. I remember that. But, you know, as kids, we often just put that away. When my dad passed away at the age of 14, I do remember seeing him in my room, and my mom said to me at the time, because he was a Rosicrucian, he was very much into the Rosicrucian teachings. And at the time, I didn't know much about that. And now you have Google, of course. In the 1980s, you did not have that. You didn't have the internet.
Right.
And my mom said, you know what, you're too young for this. And because my dad was very, very spiritual, and I always say he sort of walked out of this life because he had coronary heart disease and he refused to take his medication. Was it suicide? I always say, you know what, he was tired of life and he just didn't want to live anymore. And the only way, like I said, he didn't take his medication. But he's okay up there now. I see him plenty of times. And the same with my stepdad passed away of cancer. So I also saw him in the room because I asked him, does the city of Shambhala exist? If it does, then please do come back and tell me. And he said, okay, I will. And he always looked at me like, like wonky-eyed, like, what are you talking about? But once he crossed over, he did come and visit me. He stood by my bedside, and I knew then that was his way of saying, you know what, you're right, Birgitta. And then, of course, because I went through many traumatic experiences, I studied all these healing modalities, but I couldn't see. I could feel, but it wasn't. I tried mediumship. I even went to the Arthur Findlay College and did a course that was called So You Want to Be a Medium.
Right.
Yes, I did it. I was chucked in the beginner's course, and it was it was a learning curve. And then the beginners were put together with the advanced, and then we had to sit in a circle and give readings. And I had somebody at the back of me, and they were like kicking me, like, get up, deliver the message. So I bit the bullet, and I was the first one because everyone's really quiet. And I delivered a message that was actually meant for the teacher of the advanced group. So that was enlightening, but it wasn't really for me. I sat in circle and I was able to deliver messages, but it wasn't enough for me. And in 2016, that's when I learned to channel at another workshop. And that was actually really, really incredible because for me, it was different than for the other people in the room. And I was sitting there. I'm kind of like an antisocial shitbird. So I sit in my own little corner. And everyone during the meditation got messages. They saw the Ascended Masters, the Archangels, you name it. I got zilch because when the teacher counted to 3, I was gone. And then when she counted back from 3 to 1, I came back into the room. Well, I was really upset, but nobody noticed it.
Right.
And then the teacher, Alania Starhawk, she said, this is how I started. And she said, she took a pad and a pen and she just said to Spirit, I am ready to receive. And that exercise stuck by me. And at the end of the class, I walked out very quickly and drove home. And that's exactly what I did that night. Because I'd been through so much. I guess my mind was just, I'm not going to say gone because it sounds kind of loony, but I was just at a stage where I was like, you know what, I really want to change my life. And I sat down and I did that exercise and it just started to flow. And it was an old English style and it just came through. And honestly, Jason, I was crying tears of joy because I was like, yes, finally.
Wow. Wow. Isn't it amazing when you let yourself go and not expect anything to
Yeah,
happen and just let yourself go and experience it? And that's when it happens.
absolutely. Yeah. And that's when it happened for me. But I always say, I would never have gotten to that point if it weren't for all the experiences that I went through.
And I know, and you talk about that, and since we're there, um, you know, you talk about how your childhood, was full of abuse and the loss of your father as a teenager, and how that affected you, um, and that eventually helped you, um, on your healing journey. And talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, sometimes that was, two, no, that's the wrong saying. One step forward, two steps back.
Yes.
That's how it was. And I was very, very insecure. I was riddled with fear and shame. And because we're energy, that's what we vibe out.
Hmm.
And we vibe that formula that we vibe out, we vibe it back in. And that's why I had many dysfunctional relationships as well. I was a pro at starving myself. I really, really was. People didn't even notice it. And I was a pro at working like a maniac. I would find, you can put me in the desert, doesn't matter. I will find work. And that was my coping mechanism. And especially, like, even in the modeling industry, I was assaulted. It's not all glitz and glam. I couldn't live of it, honestly. I was compared to the likes of Linda Evangelista, Brooke Shields, Nikki Taylor, several others. And I, I, I had several jobs, but if I had tried to make a living of it, I would have lived under a bridge somewhere.
I know.
So
I was reading, several jobs: healer, model, web designer, bartender. Of
yes,
course, your channel, corporate America. So you mentioned that you had several jobs.
yes.
How you tell us how you turned your own real life experiences into like practical advice to help maybe people re-engage with their most authentic selves.
So for me, well, there are so many aspects to that. I mean, for me, even the dysfunctional relationships I was in, I was trying to fix. I was trying to fix people. I want to fixer uppers, refurbishment projects. That's exactly what I got because I was broken myself,
Right.
and so we attract these reflections to understand our experiences and heal
Mm,
from them, and just level up a notch in life, so to speak. But it's all about taking responsibility and accountability for everything in our life and in
yes.
our lives. People say, yeah, but this happened in my youth, it's not my fault. It doesn't matter. It's
It
your
doesn't.
life. You take responsibility. Stop wallowing in that victimhood.
Mm,
And I think that is so key, and especially what's going on in the world right now. People see it as there's so much change going on because the earth is going through a transformational period or an
yes.
ascension process. And people always ask me, well, what does ascension mean? Well, ascension from 3D, so to speak, to 5D is merely a shift in consciousness. It's letting go of all these labels you've slapped onto your mind, like shame, fear, you name it, all these negative emotions, because you can achieve anything you want, anything that you aspire to be, you can achieve
Mhm.
if get the kinks out of your energetic system, so to speak.
So healing ourselves, that's what we have to do. What are
Yes.
those steps? What are the steps to healing ourselves rather than remaining trapped? in a state of victimhood.
Nobody's gonna move. You've got to move from the couch, so to speak. You really have to take that first step. If you do nothing, nothing happens. Nothing happens by magic,
Yes.
right? The
Yeah.
magic is within you. So you have to, and many people search without, but everything is actually within.
Mm.
So I really wanted to heal. Every time it was a process, but I wanted to heal. I wanted to get better. I wanted to improve my life. And even though it took me a while, even though sometimes I was in dysfunctional relationships for quite a while, I did get out in the end.
Mm.
And I always say this to people: the more challenging a situation, the more opportunity you have to expand and to overcome and to rise above. Because everything starts with you. It doesn't matter how you decide to heal, but if you want to create a better life for yourself, then you have to heal up. You have to go within. And whether you choose a counselor, a healer, it doesn't matter. There are many ways to roam, right?
Right. So, soul empowerment coach. Um, I want to now move to your website. I have another question, and I know it's going to take you a long time to answer this one, but I want to go to the website first, and then I want to come back and get to the juicy stuff that the audience wants to know. But tell us about what you're doing on your website, and things that you offer. Power Soul Healing. We know that you have a book out,
Yeah.
becoming authentically. Becoming authentically. Talk about the book, and then your website in general, and what do you have to offer?
Yeah. So my book, Becoming Authentically Me, this is about returning to our own, our true nature, because we're so conditioned, we're so programmed, we have so disempowered ourselves. We've freely given our power away. We live in this social matrix, this created artificial paradigm, so to speak. And we've gotten lost in this jungle called Earth. And it's very hard for people to sometimes see that life is not all about oh, how do I translate this in English? Well, I'm just going to translate it exactly from Dutch. Life is not all about having the job, the house, the mortgage, the white picket fence. Life is about so much more. And in simple terms, life is merely a return to love, nothing more, nothing less.
The infamous love frequency that resides in the quantum field, that
Yes,
resides within Christ consciousness.
yes,
The frequency of love unlocks so many things. It helps mind and heart uh, cohesion. It unlocks a number of things, and we look at that and say, "Well, I love my cat. I love my." I mean, no, just love, just to be at the level of love in general opens up so much opportunity for manifestations. I'm at a fast level.
absolutely, it does. And how many people can look in the mirror and tell their mirror image, I love you? Oh, for the longest time, I hated myself. I honestly did. And, I'm a lot better now than I was years and years ago.
Right. So how can people work with you? Let's talk about that. Um,
Yeah, so they can.
what are you offering to, we know that you're doing the empowerment coaching, but talk about your program.
So when people come to me, it's for light language healing. So I did do the soul empowerment readings, but they're on hold right now.
Mhm.
But I do the crystalline frequency healing. So I work with my cosmic healing bowls and my alchemy bowls, and I
Yes.
infuse it with light language. And I love light language. I'm actually going to follow another course. And That's really exciting. I love light language because it gets me on a real high.
Wow, that's
And it's
awesome.
power, as you know, with light language, it's
Mhm.
very, very powerful healing because it doesn't speak on a conscience level, but it speaks directly to your soul. Your soul understands it. People may think it's like, well, what is this? What is this gerbil language? But once they hear it and they close their eyes and they hear it, it's like their soul just absorbs it.
Wow. I want to remind the audience, um, you're listening to the expansion of consciousness, and I'm your host, Jason Medlock, and we're here with Birgitta Visser, um, empowerment coach, light empowerment coach. Also, is the author of Becoming Authentically Me. Brigitte is a channeler. She's a happy medium, passing information on for the betterment of humanity. And she also does private sessions and she does coaching. So check her out, www.powersoulhealing.com, www.powersoulhealing.com. I'd like to now, I want us to get into it a little bit. I want to talk about let's talk about how you commence channeling the many light beings, the
Mm.
archangels, and the ascended masters, and the spirit guides. How'd you commence channeling these entities? Um, and what was that like?
So when I first started out that night, as I said earlier,
Mhm.
I started doing that every day and I just asked questions. It didn't stay with that because, I had my card packs from Doreen Virtue at the time. And I thought, let me do this exercise. I'm going to shuffle the cards, just going to pick whatever card I pick. And I put it next to me and I didn't Google it because that would be cheating. But I sat down and I said to whoever I had, do you have a message? And is there anything that you'd like to convey? And tell me something about the lifetimes you've lived. And I just started to write. And that's a great little exercise. And people say, yeah, but how do you do that? How do you? Well, because, my mind gets in the way. And it's not about getting, yeah. I always say to people, whatever you get, it doesn't matter. Just write it down. And eventually it will flow. It's like learning to ride a bike. It's the same thing. You keep trying and trying
Well,
until
let
you
me
become
let me
pro at
interrupt
it.
for a second. So when you're getting this information, I'm a remote viewer, and we receive information to locate unknown targets. So
Yep.
when we are touching the paper that we're doing this remote viewing exercise, when we touch it, the first information that comes to mind, the low-lying fruit, that's the subconscious mind giving you coordinates or giving you information on the
Yes.
unknown target. So when you're saying I'm sitting there and I just start writing, you're not waiting 4 and 5 seconds because your conscious mind is taking over.
Uh,
So I just want the audience to know, when she sits, the first thing that comes to her mind is the channel. It's the connection she's receiving,
yeah.
and she's writing freely.
Yes. There are some I work a lot with the Ascended Master Saint Germain, and I love him because he's funny. He's got a very quirky sense of humor. I think in his last lifetime as Le Comte de Saint Germain, the Count of Saint Germain, he he was very eccentric, and he's lived many, many lifetimes.
Mm.
And his sense of humor has gotten me through a lot of things. Now, everyone that channels the many masters will channel them differently. Some will channel them very seriously. They always come through with a serious message, but the underlying tone is with a sense of humor. Because as Saint Germain says, you got to take life with a pinch of salt. And yet it's like everyone has got living their own soap opera, their own dramedies. Whilst life is not a dramedy, life is merely about understanding your experiences and moving forward.
Wow. So what are some of the more interesting things you've tried to pass forward that has come to you about just whatever about humanity, about what direction are we moving in? What are some of the more interesting things that you've picked up?
People always ask me this about humanity. Where is it headed?
Mm,
But nobody's here to save us. We are here to save ourselves.
mm,
And I always say this to people: if you want to make the world a better place, you've got to start with yourself. Because, Jason, as you know, real change commences from within. And it doesn't matter what goes out or what goes on in the outer world, and nor what others may think of you, but it really matters how you navigate through your own world and what you think of yourself. Because at the end of the day, what you give power to has power over you. That's not rocket science. And yes, we all vibrate at this different level of consciousness. And that's really beautiful, I think. So I always say to people, you know what, be in acceptance of that. And understand that the world really doesn't get better from the outside in, but it gets better from the inside out.
mm.
And the other thing, which is really, really important, but everyone thinks about this differently. But I always say, don't be part of the system, but instead nurture your inner system, because society will not change from the outside in, but it changes from the inside out.
So when we tell audiences, and I interview a lot of people, and you have a lot of clients and do a lot of commentaries and interviews as well. When we
Yeah.
tell people to work from the inside in and start from within, and they're like, okay, but what do I do? So I like to add that Brigitta means to find peace,
Mm.
find a quiet space, and begin to calm your body. And you may use meditation, you may use
Yes.
EFT, you may use a form of yoga, modalities that can help you center yourself and be as peaceful and quiet as possible,
Yep.
so that you can hear and receive and differentiate the message from the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, because there are two different pieces of information coming in. And the only way you can make that clear distinction is by having a solitude routine every day,
Yep.
so that you can be centered and be in that spot, so that you can hear and know the difference.
Yes, and I think you hit a point there, especially meditation is so important. Whether it's 20 minutes a day, that's enough to start your day. It's breathing exercises. I mentioned this a lot.
Kalapate breath.
The prana. So,
Prana, yes.
yeah,
And it's
I was
powerful too. Prana breath is
very,
powerful.
yeah, yes. So I used the 8 counts when I was out in the Art of Living Center in India many years ago, in Bangalore. This is what I learned, the pranayama, the Bastrika pranayama, but I do it in the shortened version now, which is because people shallow breathe. I work a lot with Lord Sananda as well, who some people channel as the his other aspect, the master teacher, Jesus,
Mm,
and Lord Sananda. But that, Jesus wasn't his last lifetime. He lived one more lifetime before he ascended, and that was as the healer Apollonius of Tijuana. And he was a Greek philosopher and healer before he ascended.
So,
But
and Jesus is an ascended master, correct?
he's an aspect. So he, yes, no. Lord Sananda was once Jesus Christ. But it's
Okay.
okay if people channel an aspect of one of his former lives,
Right.
like Jesus Christ. It doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, we're all one. You and I have lived many, many thousands of lifetimes. If we were to go and see a medium, someone would pick up a lifetime of a person that once was,
Mm,
so to speak. they won't see the actual star being that they are, the brilliance of the star seed that they are, but a medium sees an aspect of a person that once was.
You know what's interesting? I'm a QHHT practitioner,
Yeah.
quantum healing hypnosis. So,
Hmm.
got my training from Julia Cannon, Dolores'
Yeah.
daughter. So, when we peer off into these lifetimes with a number of clients that I've had, and the higher self, subconscious mind, whatever you want to call it, shows them the lifetimes that they think will help them in this current lifetime.
Yeah.
And they never will show them anything that isn't pertaining to what's going on right now. And to move through those lifetimes, these people that are under trance, that are in the theta brainwave state, and obviously Dolores's techniques takes you to the somnambulistic state where only our voice is keeping the client awake.
Mm.
And when we move through these lifetimes and they are talking, they have no idea when they wake up and they listen to the audio and they look at the video that they've experienced all these different aspects of
Mm.
themselves. And I just, I wanted to piggyback on what you were saying. That is true what you're saying. It's absolutely amazing that we've lived thousands, hundreds, in some instances, hundreds of thousands of
Mm.
lifetimes. And just that whole concept, Brigitta, is really mind-boggling. And I work directly in that type of field. But one more thing, when the higher self is brought out, and when you start to have a conversation with the higher self,
Mm.
um, the brilliance of the voice, the intellectual, um, just prowess of the voice is mind blowing. When you're asking the questions, it is mind blowing. And I know when you're receiving these messages and how intelligently they can explain what's going on with humanity in the future, it has to blow you away sometimes.
It yes, it does. There is one thing that I will say. I mean, I know a lot that does go on. I never really talk about it because people have, it's just chaos on social media. It's too much for me
They don't
that I step
understand.
away. And
Yeah,
there's a lot going on in the world. But they
yeah.
always say, the Ascended Master Saint Germain always says, you got it wrong. The heroes that you think are the heroes are actually the villains. And the villains typecast in the media are actually the heroes that are working on making the world a better place. We have the Galactic Federation that does help, that helps a lot actually, but humanity has to save themselves. And a lot is happening right now. The whole system is slowly collapsing. It's brilliant to see. That's why there's so much fear within people. But fear, as you know very well, is false evidence appearing real, right? That's what they say. I always say, as they tell me, it's actually, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to fall endlessly or arise revolutionary? And that's, we've just been so contained. That's why Terra means earth. That's why I call it a terrarium, because we're in this glass box. We've been kept in this glass box thinking this is all there is to life. But we live in separation whilst we are, as you said in the beginning, we're all one. We're all one and the same. And people are like, no, yes, we celebrate our individuality, but we're still one and the same, because our physical appearance may be different, but the light within isn't.
And this conversation, we are having a conversation, you and I, but we're just, only thing we're doing is discovering a different aspect of ourselves,
Yes.
because you are me and I am you, and
Yes.
this aspect is interacting with a different aspect of me.
Yes.
And when we can get our audience to understand that, and I'm sure they do, that's a beautiful thing in itself to understand. But we're running close on time, but we have a few more moments. I want to really dig into this topic right here. And this magnificent experiment we call Earth. Okay. How did it all begin? Why are we here?
Oh, that's an easy answer.
Let's go. Let's go with it.
It's not like I haven't already touched on it. Why are we here? Well,
But how did it
here's what-
begin? How did the experiment begin in the first place? And why are we here?
let me put it in Lego blocks. So there are many universes within the many multiverses.
Hmm.
Every planet has its own trajectory of evolution. So does Earth. Earth is just in one part, and it's the hardest school, so to speak. We signed up for this, and people say, "No, I didn't sign up for this." Yes, you did, because you are here. The two things here: you are here to remember who you are,
Mm.
to return to a love of self, taking back your I am power because you've disempowered yourself, and you are here to help Mother Earth ascend just as much as you're here to, help ascend all of humanity. And it's all about transformation. And Earth is not meant, oh, come on, let's face it, Jason, our soul was not designed to live this way.
No.
During Atlantean times, Lemurian times, even though the ego crept in, because there's always been this constant battle between light and dark, light and dark, light and dark. We live in this feat of duality that's very 3D. We live in this feat of the ego, but it's all about overcoming that and learning to work with one another, understanding that we are all one, and moving forward into a new dawning. But as I said, it starts from within. We need to make the changes within. And we're so caught up in the rat race of life and in the trauma of our experiences because we think it's so real, but it's not real. It's like we're actors and we've got characters in our reel of life, right? The play off. And for me, it took me the longest time to understand this. And that's why I was so sucked into my experiences. But it's merely rise above it, change your stance. And I think that's very, very important. But the Earth will eventually, like Venus and many other planets, will eventually finish its evolution, its evolutionary trajectory, and just burst into a massive supernova.
Mm. All these topics are so real, and it takes a level of consciousness to grasp. And typically, after you've had this awakening or you've had this moment where you're starting to get thirsty for information and knowledge, it's because that it was planned that way when you were in the spiritual realm, planning your incarnation on Earth, and you knew that you would lose your memory because
Yes, so did
you,
you.
yeah, and that would be hard. It would be hard to be here in this lifetime
Yes.
remembering all the thousands and hundreds of thousands of lifetimes you've
Yeah.
already lived. And one more thing I wanted to add was, while we're here, and you so eloquently gave us a list of things, and one of them is to co-create, is to
Yeah.
continue to create, because we are co-creators. We are God. We're an
Yes, we are.
aspect of God, and we're an aspect that is split into. I don't even know the number. I don't even know if you can quantify the number of spirits that are in every dimension, that are in every multiverse, that make up every living thing there is. And it's
Yes.
just such a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful, yes, it is a beautiful thing. It's when you look at the world from above or you look out in the universe, it's incredible how everything is connected,
Hmm.
and when we're down here below, people don't see it. But from the vastness of space, it's incredible.
Wow. Well, I I thank you for coming on and sharing wonderful information to the audience. Do you want to leave the audience with any parting thoughts or information, or how to contact you, or anything you got to say? Give it to
There-
them now.
so there is yeah, one thing I just want to hit on before I do my closing message. So you asked how it all began with the earth.
Hmm.
The earth was created by the architects. The architects with it, they create a lot of planets, and it takes thousands and thousands of years for planets to be created. And of course, the earth, Mother Earth, carries consciousness because Mother
Yes.
Earth is consciousness just like we are. Yet we pollute her as much as we pollute ourselves. It's horrific. But as you know, everything is done by design. But that's just what I wanted to say. Now, for those that are really suffering from, or well, let me rewind. For those that are suffering from traumatic experiences or is very stuck in their ways, very programmed, but really want to move forward in life, then, okay, then they say, it's time for you to look at yourself in the mirror and take that accountability for your own life. Because whatever you decide to say to another person, right, it's like you always should hold a mirror right in front of your face, because whatever you tell another person says a lot more about yourself and how you feel about yourself. So stop judging other people. Yeah, put the ego aside and do what is necessary for you to heal, to return to a more authentic version of yourself. The only way you're going to do that is by getting off that couch. And nothing is going to happen by magic. It really starts when you decide to do the work. So if you want to have a better life, do something different every day. And as Jason earlier said, meditate or even listen to 432 hertz on YouTube, which is very, very powerful. Or just plug in your earphones and listen to meditations by David G. Because when you start breathing properly, right, from the root chakra all the way up to the crown chakra, you will see that you'll become very, very calm. You can collect your thoughts. And even though some people you may think it's juju, it's so, so powerful. But it all starts with you.
Mm. Birgitta Visser, I really want to thank you for coming on. I want you to hang on. Don't go anywhere. I'm gonna move you to the back office. I'm gonna close the show out, but very powerful information. And thank you for coming on and sharing this with the audience.
Thank you for having me, Jason.
So you stay there. I'm gonna come
Yes.
back and talk to you in a second. Beautiful information. The expansion of consciousness. We understand that it's more than just what we see every day in this third dimensional construct that we live in, which is the planet Earth, which is the three-dimensional view that we have. And understanding why you are here. We're here to co-create. We're here to um, learn how to find our way back to oneness, which is God, um, through this world that we live around with all the busyness and all the turmoil. How do we find Christ consciousness? There are several examples that have been left by our forefathers, and a lot of things have been muddied down, muddied up throughout the years of history. But there's still remnants of how you can atone, how you can start to work from within. And all this esoteric knowledge has been available to us. And that's why over the years, you've seen individuals go on spiritual journeys, begin to question, why am I here? It has to be more than this. And this beautiful planet we live on is a training ground. So It was exciting to have Birgitta with us today. And I'm glad that you guys continue to watch the expansion of consciousness, where I like and I hope that you are receiving information that helps you on your spiritual journey, helps you on your daily walk in life, helps you become a better business person, helps you focus on different things you want to do in your life. There are a number of modalities that can help you do that. And, we're all coaches and we're all here to help. Thank you for watching us tonight. Expansion of consciousness. Follow us on YouTube at Expansion of Consciousness. Click like and click subscribe. Thank you so much for being with us. God bless you. And we'll see you the next time. Goodbye.